'Cause this is my guitar, and I'm playing it because I know how to play a guitar. So this is my song that I'm singing, but now it's over now because my intro is too. Bye. Hello, friends. Today, I felt as though we should discuss the new Apex mode. I've never been really the biggest Apex player, but when I heard that there was going to be a new update that was sort of like, a sort of 6v6 sort of thing. Well, it's 3v3, but you get my point. I was all ears. So I tried it out last night with Jack and Henry, and it was a really good time. So I figured we should just take a second to talk about it. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, I think the first thing we should start with is definitely map design. I feel like that's going to be especially important for something that's literally turning from a battle royale to a much smaller scale mode, right, from 100 players to 6. So I definitely think that the map design is pretty good. I like the fact that it's super spread out. Now, initially that'd be really weird because you take a look at something like Gunfight from Modern Warfare or Cold War, and those maps are like, like a lot smaller. I was going to say like a 50th, but I have no idea if that's true. I don't think that's true. But it's a lot smaller scale, right? But I actually like this, especially combined with the fact that you have a zone. It keeps it so that the gameplay is very varied. You guys know I like that term. It gives a lot of possibility for how each map can play out, each match, sorry. Whereas if you take a look at something like Gunfight, it's still, very, very varied, again, when it comes to how each players are interacting. But there's not as much different possibilities that can happen because the maps are smaller, even some of them having, very strict corridors. I think of something like Aisle 6, I think it's called. Both have very restricted lanes. So I feel as though the open map design is actually very fun. It also encourages a lot of different playstyles. You could stay back with a sniper, you could push up with an SMG, play a sort of mid-range with a rifle. So very, very decent map design, I'd say, especially for, I know obviously it's not their first time doing this. They had Titanfall. But for Apex, I think it's definitely a good move. However, I will note that I feel like sometimes once you're out of like the spawn area and the more open areas, and once you're closer to the other people, I feel like sometimes you don't really have as much cover as you'd like, but maybe that's just because I'm a noob at Apex and I don't really know how to play. So just a note. Overall, map design, pretty good. Okay, next let's talk about the buy phase. I typically am not the biggest fan of games like Valorant and CSGO, where you have like a buy phase, where you earn tokens, and as a result, you're able to buy weaponry and other, such things. Truthfully, I haven't really played many games like that, but the concept has never really seemed that fair to me. But I feel like Apex has done a really good job of making sure that even if you end up like losing a round or two, you're not going to be super far behind on tokens. Obviously, that's a big problem with modes like that. And I have I have played a Fortnite adaptation of like Valorant or CSGO. I feel like you always feel that you have at least enough money to get by, to the point where you're at least standing a chance. So I feel like they did a good job, for the most part, of balancing the buy phase. And I feel as though, man, I use that word a lot, don't I? I feel as though they made it unique to Apex. They took what is otherwise a pretty unoriginal idea and sort of molded it to fit the Apex environment. For example, you can buy your ultimate and the other abilities, and I feel like that's definitely, a little overpowered at times, I feel like, with some characters. I think it was definitely an interesting mechanic that they implemented, and it definitely makes that gameplay more unique and more varied, especially because it's going to depend on the legends that each player selects. Now let's talk about another big problem that could have been, which is camping. When I first heard about this mode, when Jack was sort of giving me the breakdown of what this mode was going to be about, I was very concerned that camping would play a really big role, because obviously there's no objective, and when you have a one-life game mode with no objective, sure, it sounds fun, but what ends up happening is people camp. But I actually did not encounter, obviously the gameplay you're seeing here is only one round, and it was pretty bad because it was my first round. I didn't really know what I was doing. But in the games that I played afterwards, and even in that one, I didn't really experience too much camping. I think that the storm was definitely a good way to make sure that people are, actually fighting. And I also think that people just tend to push up naturally, even before, whether it's to gain control of that storm circle or to just get map control in general, or maybe even get those armor supply boxes or getting even more money to spend on the rounds, which is something that I typically do. So I feel like objective play, which I guess the objective being eliminate the other opponents, is definitely encouraged. I was expecting there to be a lot of camping, but I didn't really run into much. Sure, you still run into the problem of not a lot of people like to cross the midpoint of the map, but eventually that problem's solved as the ring gets smaller. So far I've really praised this mode. I've really liked it. If I were to give a couple maybe critiques or things that I would do differently, I would sort of go back to the buy phase for a second. A big problem, I think, with buy phases and games that include them are that people tend to use the same weapons. And sure, you could say the same thing about create a class, like in Call of Duty, but I feel like that's especially true in games with buy phases, because once you have enough money, you might as well buy the best thing, right? So I feel like that's just sort of a problem. It's sort of unavoidable, though. I'm not entirely sure how you could balance it. Maybe perhaps increase the price of the better weapons, but then that would just encourage people to buy them even more, because you'd have to get the bang for the buck, and at that point they've saved up. So I'm not really sure how you could fix it. That is sort of just an inherent problem with buy phases, but I feel like that's definitely one of the biggest things that can make the game mode boring. Another thing, I actually do want maybe a couple more smaller maps. I was talking earlier about how I enjoyed the fact that it sort of just felt like the end game of a battle royale, right? Because it was pretty open. Definitely the part that everyone likes. But I feel like almost having a smaller map, like almost the size of Shoot House on Modern Warfare, would be really fun. And not all the maps have to be like that. You could have like different sizes. You could have the really big ones that we currently have, which I think are really fun. You could have a medium-sized one, like maybe something the size of, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a comparison. Maybe something the size of like Moscow from Cold War, and then have a really small map, like something like, Nuketown or from Cold War, or Shoot House from Modern Warfare. I think that would make it really fun. Because I feel like one of the biggest problems with Apex, and one of my friends pointed this out to me earlier, is they just don't have a lot of variations in their modes. Right, like they don't have a solos for Battle Royale, for instance. So I feel like if they were to differentiate the map size and also create possibly a 6v6 mode, a 1v1 mode, not entirely sure how that would work, a 2v2 mode, just adding more content, I feel like would really benefit this game mode. But in conclusion, I really liked this mode. I think it has a lot of potential. I think in its current state, it's pretty good. There's definitely stuff that could be improved, but I mean, overall, I really enjoy it. So good job, Apex. I think you're definitely doing a good job of expanding your player base and the type of content that you do. I think having a game that covers a bunch of different fields, sort of like Call of Duty in its sense with, having multiplayers and Warzone, I think that's a really, really good idea. And it's definitely bringing new players, I would think. So definitely a great mode, and I look forward to the future of it. Thank you.
Yes.